Last night, special call meeting to discuss the status, and also some votes were taken last night in regards to tornado damaged schools, Stoner Creek Elementary and West Wilson Middle. For those who perhaps weren't able to tune into that or watch the recap, a quick overview of where we stand with those two schools as we know it today.
And you noted as far as we did have a special called meeting, and for those are meetings that are outside a regularly scheduled monthly meeting, particularly when there's either business or an emergency or something. And so the essence of the meeting last night was to more or less get a status on and an update on our two properties, West Wilson Middle School and Stoner Creek, that we lost, and that's the term I want to use, lost on March the 3rd due to a EF3 tornado. And our board attorney, Mike Jennings, updated and where we were. And again, I keep reminding people, this is not something that's working in isolation as a school district, but we have an insurance company. We have a mediator with the National Fire NFA group that's worked between. We have a local agency that's been working with us as well. So it's a long, arduous process. And as you know, some of our community members says they've dealt with insurance before, and I don't say that in a disparaging way, but there's a process, particularly when you look at the magnitude of our project. And so with that was to bring not only the board up, but to more or less get their approval that we are now at the point that we're not finished with the insurance companies.
Right.
I want to make sure that's clear, but we need to get into the bidding process so we know, again, what we're looking at, the scope of the project, which will help expedite and move as far as, what and how we can proceed. Because again, it's one that when you look at just the time frame, and I know the frustration, I wake up with it every morning knowing that we are nearly a year out from the time the tornado hit. And looking at just the construction process, we're looking at another year. So I understand. It's mind-boggling, it's upsetting, it's frustrating, and not only the community but parents want to know, what does the future hold. So this, I see it as really good news. The board approved last night to put the bids out. It'll give us an idea as far as to estimate our cost with two projects, again, an elementary school and a middle school, and it starts the movement, if anything. And so that it was a good meeting, good outcome, and we're ready.
The second part of the vote last night was to allow our emergency management director, Mr. Steve Spencer, the chance to, when this bid process is complete, to submit those necessary documents to FEMA for a reimbursement. There was a few questions that came in last night about the FEMA piece of this. Can you expound on that?
Yes, and thank you for bringing that up, because that's a really important element of this whole process. Whenever you have a natural disaster or a catastrophic event, whether it's fires, tornadoes, hurricanes, whatever it might be, FEMA becomes one of those last dollar look at how they can help recover funding. And so Steve Spencer, who is our supervisor that not only over emergency and
safety
support,
and all that, but he
covers
he's a
it.
whiz at FEMA stuff.
And he has a background,
Right.
and we're very fortunate to have him and his expertise. But he's been waiting, because you cannot start the FEMA process until you have bids that are put out there, advertised bids, and that gives opportunities for, whether it's the construction groups, whomever that will have an interest to be a participant in that. And so he's been waiting. This allows him to start the process once those bids come back in, because it's one of those, it's not a full cost, but it's a significant payback that we can recover like 75%. And so Mr. Spencer will start that process as soon as we get those bids coming in to show that that's the evidence that we've put these projects out there.
Information everyone received this week was the fact that we are going K through 5, a full-time traditional next week, 6 through 12 remain on hybrid, and we'll just dive into it. The decision to go into that model next week, and for those who paid very close attention to the wording of that, there was no end date on this. This is where the models we will stay in unless there is data that suggests that another model is needed for grade bands or whatever for a good reason or a not so good reason. So it can go either way, but just dive into that a little bit.
And I know that some of it being that, there was a period of time, we were in remote the week before we went into the holiday break back in December. And then coming back, we remained in a remote setting simply because when you looked at the metrics that not only that we were seeing internally as far as families reporting in, staff, there was a great deal of concern. But we also had to look at the county metrics because, again, we've said this every time we get into this Friday message, we can watch the correlation between looking at the county numbers and what we're seeing internally within the district. I can't impress enough that this is something it's not looking at once a week. We're looking daily. Those numbers are collected. We've got these massive spreadsheets that we're looking to monitor where we have a hot spot, where we're looking that we have close concern, where we see improvement. And so the decision was made that we were starting to see, we're still not out of the critical range.
It's ever so slightly.
But we're seeing a slow ebbing. It might be a false positive, but what we're seeing that when we look across the district. So that was the decision that go back to the model that we had in place, that in fact with K-5,
throughout the fall,
late October.
Bit, yes.
And so that's a K-5 with a mask requirement. 6-12 hybrid mask requirement. And I know you have been as well. Well, why are we on the hybrid if things have gotten better?
For 6 through 12.
For grades 6 through 12. We still have to maintain social distancing, Bart. That doesn't go away. And when you look at grades 6 through 12, you look at student movement in classes. They're not in a self-contained, static cohort group like we have in K-5. They move in as far as in groups. They might change different classes. They don't stay in a unique group like we have in our elementary. So social distancing, that doesn't go away. We've got to practice those safe habits. We have to wear the mask. We need to make sure that hygiene that we keep, impressing on everyone, it's still important. COVID is still here. Are we managing it better? I don't know if it's managing, because that was a question I was posed to me. Are you not managing it better? Every time we think we get our arms around, and I'm not speaking just, looking just at Wilson County Schools, this is the discussion everyone's having.
Right.
But the thing that we do know, that if we practice those habits, we can have a semblance of doing what we need to do, and particularly with educating our students.
Perhaps evidence of that coming out of holiday break, that the impact wasn't as ominous as we first anticipated. So there's a signal that a lot of people out there are saying, you know what, let's do the right things to try to get back to where we need to go.
Well, that second week we were remote that was alarming, because when we started looking at not only the increased hospitalizations, we started seeing daily death rates. And so that might have been the surge, but the other thing that, as we look at that advisement too, death rates could have been in the extension of people that had been very ill for well over a month.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that we just have to pay attention to. But our commitment to the very best of our ability to keep not only our students safe, but our staff as well. And I will add this too. Our teachers want to be back full time, and here's why. It is much harder to provide instruction on a hybrid or a remote model than day-to-day full-time instruction. It just is. You're making different plans, different preparations. You're doubling up on what you would do. And so just the planning and then, as far as the implementation, it's really, really hard work and time-consuming. And so if you're just talk to teachers, which many of them share with me, they'll be so happy to get back to what we had and where we were. But I will also say this for them. I cannot say enough as far as their creativity, how innovative, and as far as looking at something that could be so complicated, so hard, and making it fun and engaging. I'm so proud of the work that they have done, and how much, I don't want to call improvement, but how they've really perfected their craft. And in fact, several of them, I I wrote an article that was placed in a national publication based on some of our middle schools doing virtual learning setting and with project-based learning. And I was like, man, how did you come up with that? And kids that were in their own homes on an asynchronous day, all collaborating to come up with a project, and it was different groups. And not just one middle school, several of the middle schools had projects like that going on. It was impressive. And so we've learned a lot, and I'm excited about the future, because if that's what can be created, thought of, presented under really harsh circumstances, imagine what can be done now when we know that we can do it.
Right, absolutely. A lot has been covered since day one for sure. And very quickly, briefly, before we close things out, really nothing new on the vaccination front. We're still waiting, but we are ready.
We are ready.
We are ready. We're just waiting to get the green light.
Over 1,400 employees are saying, bring the dosage. We're ready.
Right.
So, yeah, we're just waiting.
Any updates on that, we will certainly let everyone know. But
Yes.
Again, we are still in wait mode from the state to get the green light on that. Dr. Wright, have a wonderful weekend. I hope everybody has a great weekend. I hope my voice will be back on Monday.
Get your voice back.
I get my voice back. I think my wife likes it when I really talk very much. So,
We won't go there.
Anyway, but thank you so much again, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
And everyone have a great weekend.
Absolutely. Thank you.